right, and welcome to the show today. I'm very excited to have with me my friend, actually from the Simon University of Rochester MBA we went through together a few years back, Gregory Couvelier. I'm sorry, I butchered that again after I went over it with you. Couvelier.
That's correct.
All
Good
right.
afternoon.
I'm sorry about that, but
It's
yeah,
fine.
I'm very excited to have you on. You have a little bit different of a background than most, where you own a company. It sounds like a rather large company, actually, where you deal primarily in government sales, or selling contracts with the government.
That's correct. That's correct. We do a lot of design and manufacturing for the U.S. Navy, communication equipment, navigation, fire detection, things like that. It's a second generation family business. And so I'm in engineering. I have a brother in accounting, manufacturing, and purchasing. So it's unique, but we seem to make it work.
Very cool. So there's you and there's four brothers in total here at the top of the totem pole in this company.
Exactly, four in total.
Oh man, and like I was kind of mentioning earlier, I'm sure there's a lot we could get into with that as well, but we'll hold off for now. I'm sure we'll
Okay.
share maybe some of that later. But yeah, I thought we'd start things out talking. So, what would you say has been one of your dumbest or unsmartest personal finance mistakes you might have had, whether it be early on or more recent or something like that?
Well, there's probably been several, Kevin, but I'll try to limit it down to one or two. And I think when the stock market bottomed out in 2008, I had the realization that was probably my biggest financial mistake at that time because I was working with a financial money manager who told me to sell all my stocks. And I didn't sell them all, but I sold a large portion of them. And what I learned from that experience was that that was the wrong thing to do because if I rode out the storm, I would be way ahead. You know, at that point, it was a paper loss. I turned that paper loss into really a monetized loss.
Yeah.
That would really be hard to recover from in some senses.
And how long had you had this money manager for?
Probably for 3 or 4 years.
Okay. Okay, so you were at a point where you were trusting him from probably prior decisions and stuff like that, and
He was a lawyer, and as you know, you're an engineer. I'm an engineer, and coming from a technical background at that time, I didn't have a lot of experience in finance.
yeah,
But conversely, my growth out of that was that I wanted to increase my knowledge of finance. I wanted to become more self-reliant, and
yeah,
that was a big factor of why I wanted to go to the MBA program. So
yeah.
one of my best decisions was educating myself and taking matters into my whole own hands and not paying out commission fees and being pressured by salesmen,
Yeah.
stockbrokers, or what have you.
Yeah. Yeah. So you definitely learned a lot from that, it sounds like. And even though it was kind of the school of hard knocks, the hard way of doing it. But yeah, it sounds like you got a lot out of that, which it sounds like even led to one of your smarter financial decisions, personal finance decisions going forward.
Absolutely. And as you know, the MBA program was around $80,000 for the
Yeah.
2 years. But I can honestly tell people, I easily feel I've saved that and paid for that back, just even from a corporate sense, taking more control over the finances myself, getting rid of paying money managers, uh, investing in index funds, not mutual funds, not paying fees, taxes, transactions. So one key advice I try to tell people, and I'm actually thinking about writing a book for my children on personal finance, is
Great.
educate yourself. That's a main theme I have in life in general, but specifically with respect to finances.
Yeah, for sure. That is great. That is great. So how much would you say you were, I don't know, like what percentage would you say you've lost by pulling out? Like how far do you think it really sets you back if you were to kind of put, a rough ratio on it or something like that? That
I'd have to
2008
go
decision.
back. I don't have a number for you offhand, Kevin, but certainly it was probably more than I'd ever lost before in my life. And like you said, once you sell, you can carry that loss forward at $3,000 a year, or you can offset it against gains. But again, I'm a person who likes to buy and hold at this
Yeah.
point because I don't want transaction costs and taxes. So I know it's going to take me a long time if I just use the $3,000 carrying it forward every year. But again, I think in some ways that experience, you look at one of those dark points in your life, and it turns out to be one of the brightest spots because I had a lot of professional and personal growth out of that. And again, the back to the education is just huge because I think billions of dollars are given to money managers across this country. And no offense to money managers out there, I would advise people to buy a good index fund, and you're going to save yourself a lot of money over the life of your investment.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. I mean, there is so much. I mean, look at the financial institutions in the world as a whole and the amount of money that this industry has created, and it's creating more and more. I mean, they're becoming such humongous conglomerates in every aspect that it's kind of it's an interesting thing to watch it going forward as far as how much of our money is getting taken off in everything we do in life. But yeah.
Well, you look at the Madoff Ponzi scheme. I watched The Wolf of Wall Street this weekend, and I'm not sure how accurate that is, but my dealing with stockbrokers, I think it's probably a pretty good portrayal of what it's like. And again, it's an inherent conflict of interest in my opinion, where people are just collecting fees and commissions off you. And I am an advocate to understand finance yourself. It's not that hard. Get a little bit of education and then invest in yourself, and you can make these decisions easily yourself.
Well, that is great advice for sure, and a great lesson to be learned as far as, making the transition to doing it more yourself so you have a better handle on things for sure. Thank you so much.
I think, I mean, I always battle jack of all trades, master of none, but certainly finance is a big issue in everyone's life, regardless of your profession, if you're a doctor, lawyer, pilot, etc., engineer.
Yeah.
So definitely, when people ask me, what can I do? My first thing is educate yourself. I have some basic principles I live by. A big one is index funds. But I think can save you a lot of money over your life.
Yeah. Great advice. Great advice. Thank you so much for sharing today. I appreciate your time. So we are going to go ahead and, I guess, move on to another segment. So if you guys are interested in following in on the podcast, we're going to put the rest of this interview in on the podcast later. So anyone listening to this, Greg has some great tips that he actually has outlined with me here as far as the way he invests his money more specifically. And we're going to talk more nuts and bolts and things like that in the second segment. So please stay tuned. And thanks again, Greg.
You're welcome.